Welcome back, everyone. Phoenix 3 here today, and today I'm going to give my opinions on the new Pokemon game, Alpha Sapphire. I would say Omega Ruby, but I never actually played it, but this is going to be my review of Alpha Sapphire. Where to start? The game is good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. And I actually rushed through the early parts of the game so I could get myself Pidgeot's Mega Stone so I could play through the rest of the game as Mega Pidgeot. The story pretty much functions as any normal Pokemon game. You know, you collect the badges, fight the bad guys, save whatever team, and then fight the Elite Four, and that's pretty much it. But I must say I was actually disappointed in one film, maybe a few. Now, before I actually get into it, I want to say that as a fan of Pokemon, they're not immune from having their asses ripped apart in a review. I want to be fair, but I want to be critical at the same time, because maybe if they do watch these review videos, that they'll actually learn something from it. One thing I'm disappointed is they branded this as a brand new adventure. And to players like me, who've played the original Sapphire or Ruby, this isn't a original adventure or even a new adventure. It's the same thing. As a matter of fact, it's more of a retelling. So it's kind of like a slap in the face, if you will. Like, I don't know if you watched the short Pokemon Chronicles. Was it Pokemon Chronicles? The couple of episodes they did with Red and Megastones and stuff. But watching that and seeing Mr. Fuji give Red a Megastone, to a person like me who has played Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, he didn't give us a Megastone. So it's kind of like they're removing something from our childhoods effectively and replacing it with something else. That's how I feel here. In the original Sapphire game, when you go to fight Kyogre, there is no primal reversion. There are no mega evolutions, but the game pretty much plays the same way. Team Aqua summons Kyogre. He summons all the rain. It threatens to destroy the world, and then goes on from there. If you played Emerald, Rayquaza actually has a part in that where he calms Kyogre and Groudon. But for the most part, you just stop Kyogre, you either knock him out or you catch him, and it kind of fixes everything. Same thing here, except they introduced mega evolutions into the story. They vaguely reference the war that happened in AZ's time. They reference the great weapon that they built that took the lives of thousands of Pokemon just to work. Just a bunch of stuff. They just retold what happened in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just didn't feel like a real game to me. Of course, I got the game because I want to be able to use Mega Pidgeot in battles with my friends and stuff, but there's really no real reason for at least me to kind of get the game, because it's the exact same thing. I actually do not own my copy of Pokemon Sapphire, but I do believe I own my copy of Pokemon Emerald. And I kind of feel Pokemon Emerald is the definitive version even of the current games, just because it just has so much content. The actual story goes, it's nothing new. They've added a few changes here. They made references to old games. Like, I believe in the older Pokemon games, you do get something called a Strange Stone. You just don't know what it is. But in this game, it turns out to be Pidgeot's Megastone, which makes it even more like awesome for me at least. And then just let me say that like Mega Pidgeot's been an absolute joy to use. Like it's like every time I like going to a battle, I just like Mega Evolve because I like it so much. Um, Playing through the game, there are some things I try not to put into a review of the game. I try not to put graphics in a review of the game because I feel graphics don't make a game good. They make good games better, but they don't make bad games good, if that makes sense. Graphics should be part of the storytelling, like in terms of visuals, but not actually be the entire story. Like you don't want a really bad story and a really bad game, but have the graphics look really good. Graphics really don't matter. Music as well. All the music from Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald were remixed in this game, and they tried to stay as close to the originals as possible. But there are some songs that kind of fall short of that. It's like the instruments really don't give the boom that they normally have. Like in the fight with Rayquaza in Pokemon Emerald, you kind of felt that tension with the music. You don't feel that with the music here. Like the music just stays constantly on one level the entire time. If there were other instruments that were used, you can hear those instruments. But the music is good, but I mean it's nothing really worth like, listening to. I did leave my volume on in the game this playthrough just so I can hear Mega Pidgeot's cry. But that's pretty much it. The music is alright. The 3D. The 3D did look a little bit better, I want to say. When you're inside caves and stuff like that, the 3D looks nice. But there's one thing I did notice on the 3D. I don't know if it was just me, but whenever I play my games in 3D, I turn the 3D up to the maximum so I can really see how the effects work. Now, the Pokemon appear to not actually be in 3D, but the planes themselves do appear to be in 3D. Like, for example, your HP will be in the most front of the screen. The bar, like the Pokemon and everything else, they're actually in the middle. Like the Pokemon themselves aren't actually in 3D. Like I was looking at it long and hard, and like my Mega Pidgeot's feathers never really popped out the way they were supposed to. They like nothing really stood out. The 3D is not a big deal though. But one thing I didn't notice about the 3D is that it was kind of like in layers in 3 stages. It was like the main text box, the HP, experience note, that bar, the Pokemon, and then the background. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about like the 3D and the graphics. The graphics are good. I wish they just abandoned the sprite look. I kind of want to see some 3D models. Like I want to see the graphics look like they do in Pokédex 3D. Those look nice. It's not really needed because after all, it is just a visual style. Like it works for this game just because we're used to seeing sprites. But it'll be kind of like playing newer Mario games and they're still maintaining that sprite look just in a 3D environment. It doesn't look that good. The 3DS is capable of a lot. It's got a decent graphical processor, and I kind of want to see them take advantage of it with this game. And it's not going to say it's like, well, if they do that, there could be frame rate issues. The game has frame rate issues to begin with, but just making it look more realistic looks nice, I guess. I think it'll look nicer. I would like to see bird Pokemon with feathers. Dragon types with scales and stuff like that, fur on like the evolutions and whatnot. Like I would actually like to see that because it'll seem like the production, values went into the game. Considering 3DS games are more expensive now, $40. I would kind of like to see, them embracing the newer technologies that they have. They are doing it, don't get me wrong, but I kind of like want to just see more of it. But I do must say I do like what they did with the touch screen. For example, you have everything in the bottom screen. You've got your Pokemon Me, the player search system, and super training in one screen. You've got a Pokemon locator, another one, and like a TV mode on one, and then you have like the area nav that's pretty much gives you everything. Like the area nav by far is just the most impressive thing in the game because it's doing everything that I felt they should have done in the older games by giving shortcuts. The area nav gives you things like Pokemon in the area, berries, what trainers want to fight. It even lets you fly to certain towns and routes. It lets you fly to routes now in this game, and that's really cool. It even lets you fly to like secret bases and stuff, I believe, in some secret areas. But it lets you like shortcut fly to this. You just click on the town that you want to go to, and it'll ask you, do you want to fly to this town? And you just click yes. So I do like all the shortcuts that they have been given. And speaking of shortcuts, there are times in the game during the story mode where the character that you're supposed to go somewhere with is he'll tell you, I'm going to this town. Do you want to shortcut to this town and go with me? And they'll give you the option to like, do you want to go to this town with, this character? And you say yes, and it takes you automatically to that town. I really like that because the Hoenn region is the only Pokemon game that I actually got lost in a lot of times. And I've played through this game many times, and I still constantly get lost in some spots because the game is just so big. You never really know where you have to be. Especially if you're just button mashing through all the text, you'll miss crucial things. Like you'll never know where you're supposed to go. So I do like the fact that they shortcut certain things. And speaking more on shortcuts, I kind of wish they made selecting Pokemon moves better. Like for example, if I want to fly, I either have to go to the area nav and click where I want to go, or I have to go to the Pokemon, which is still a habit that I have. I'll go to whatever Pokemon has fly on my team, use fly, and then go from it. I wish there was a way they could shortcut fly somewhere, like you just tap like A or something in the middle where they'll ask you, do you want to fly, and you just say yes. Same thing with cut. I wish there was a way that you could cut, and cutting things is probably the most tedious because it's never like you do it once and it's always active, like strength for that one area. You have to keep doing it again. So it'd be nice if you just pushed like A on a tree and it just automatically cuts it down if you have a Pokemon on your team with cut. Or the same thing with like surf. It's never tedious with surf, but sometimes it is. Like if you want to go to a bunch of areas just to pick up like hitting items or TMs and stuff like that, you'll have to keep clicking surf. It's like you just walk up to the water and you automatically hop on a Pokemon if you have surf on your team. Same thing with strength. You don't actually have to click on the boulder. You just walk into it, and if you have something on your team with it, you do it. Same thing with waterfall and stuff like that. I kind of want to see the game be more shortcut oriented towards tedious task. Another mode they did introduce into the game was the soar feature, which lets you use Latios or Latios in their mega form, and you can fly over the Hoenn region. I did enjoy this mode decently, but I have one gripe, and I'm pretty sure you guys already know what it is. But going into that mode, it's so long. Like it'd be nice if you could actually skip the cutscene that plays before it. It's like 5 or 6 seconds, and to do that every time you land and to go back in is just so much time. It's like, yes, it's cool seeing it the first time, but when you're really out there trying to do everything and you got to see that same, 6 second cutscene every single time and you can't skip it, it's kind of annoying and tedious. Like, I do like the ability to fly around over Hoenn. It looks really nice, but I don't see myself really using it that much because it's so long. It's a lot quicker for me to just go to the area nav and fly to a town, or just go to my team, click on my Talonflame, click fly, and go to where I want to go. And plus, there really isn't anything that you can really do during the mode. Basically, what soaring allows you to do is to go to certain areas that you really can't get to by surfing or flying. Occasionally, you'll find clouds in the sky that lets you battle certain legendary Pokemon, so you can get. And I'll speak more on, legendary Pokemon in this game too, because I have a gripe with that as well. And it lets you fight those legendaries. You can catch them. You can get all of them except the legendary birds, because you got those in Pokemon X and Y. So I wish they would let you get them again. Alright. Going back to the legendary thing. My biggest gripe with that is that Nintendo officially put not like an embargo on them, but like a monopoly on them for the most part. Because if you want to play an official Nintendo tournaments, you have to have their you have to have the new copies of Pokemon for the most part. You have to have Pokemon that are native to the Kalos region. Not Kalos. Is it Kalos? Yes, the Kalos region, or in this one here, Hoenn. They have to have that little pentagon on their thing. And those are the only Pokemon you can use in official Pokemon tournaments, like VGC. The problem with that is in this game here, or even some of the older games like XY, I want to say Black and White as well, is when they actually started putting legendary Pokemon as part of the story. And natures and IVs are very important in competitive play. So when a game forces you to obtain a Pokemon like a Latias, you can get one that's a bad nature. And the problem with that is that when you do get it, you may get a nature like for example, I got a docile Latias. That's not a Latias I would want to have. I would prefer to have a Latias with a timid nature, calm if I wanted special defense, and I would preferably want his IVs in a way to where I could have hidden power fire on it. Now, I do own plenty of Latiases like this, but I don't own one that's tournament legal because it doesn't have the Pentagon on it, which is a big deal for a player like me. So all that does is put monopolies on these Pokemon. For example, Latias is a very good Pokemon to use in VGC. No one is going to trade their Latias because everybody only has one legal Latias, unless you happen to have multiple copies of the game, or you happen to find that one player that wouldn't mind trading them. But for the most part, a competitive player like me, if I had a good Latias, I wouldn't trade it because I could use it in a tournament. Same thing with Rayquaza. The game forces you to catch Rayquaza. So I end up with a relaxed Rayquaza. It's not a big deal. I still get the speed bonus, but I have a defense minus nature, which is kind of a big deal. I also don't know what his IVs are. Every Pokemon in these games now are guaranteed 331s in an area. I just don't know where they're at. And I'm stuck with Pokemon that I really wouldn't want to use in battle, especially in competitive. You're saying, well, why don't you just save in front of them and do that? Well, you kind of can't do that, because with Latias, there's a huge cutscene that plays before it. So not only are you going to have to watch that cutscene, but you're going to have to watch an entirely other cutscene right after you get done obtaining the Latias. This is like what I want to say about 5 minutes total. I mean, if you want to do that to get the nature you want and the IVs, I mean, be my guest, but it's way too tedious, and it stops the game because you can't do this post game. You have to do this during the game. Same thing with the Rayquaza. I made the attempt to knock it out twice in the post story, but the game forces you to catch it. And it's not a big deal because you have this very large cutscene that plays before obtaining Rayquaza. And almost immediately after getting Rayquaza, you have to go deal with the whole Deoxys thing. And it's the same thing with Deoxys. You either catch it right there or you knock it out. I knocked it out because I'm pretty sure there's going to be an attempt where I can get it again. If not, then there's no big deal because I don't use Deoxys anyway. But saying I did manage to get the good Rayquaza, I would still have to soft reset if I didn't get a good Deoxys because they're back to back. I don't like it when I'm forced to grab things that I really can't use. And it sucks even more that I can't use the Pokemon I already trained for tournament purposes. Just because they didn't come from X, Y, whatever. I know the reason they're doing it, and they're trying to do it to stop like hacks and stuff like that. But you really can't stop that because people already are hacking, these newer games right now. So I really wish they would just kind of lift that rule because it just makes hoarding these really good Pokemon even more important. But that's pretty much my gripe with that, is the fact that I really can't use these Pokemon in tournaments like I want to. I can, but missing a total of at least 31 in a stat is a big deal, especially when it comes to speed, your defensive powers, or your offensive strength. But that's pretty much my gripe with just legendary Pokemon. They did change some story aspects of the game. Like they made this ancient civilization even more prevalent. It was kind of briefly mentioned in the originals, but it was, nobody really did anything with it. And here they kind of focused on that more. Now, the post game is what you really want to play for in this game. If you've never played the originals, Ruby or Sapphire, then this game is going to be a treat for you. But it's going to be almost like a in pure form because they introduced so many new stuff. Like I said, this game is just Pokemon Sapphire. Since I'm playing Alpha Sapphire, this game is just Sapphire with Emerald built into it in terms of stuff. If you've never played the originals, then yes, this game is going to be a treat for you. You're going to enjoy the story, but I kind of wanted it to be more of a sequel. Like, Team Aqua, Team Magma came back and they want to try to do things differently this time, but still resurrect the Pokemon, fully understanding what they're capable of so they know how to control them. I was kind of expecting that since they did say it was like a new adventure, but it's no big deal. The game still played the exact same way. The game, it felt like Sapphire to me, and I really enjoyed that part of the game. I never really got too down and dirty with the secret bases, but the secret bases do make a return, and I may actually sit down this time and actually try to build one. It might actually be pretty beneficial, but I'm currently looking for a decent spot that I could actually use. I want a large area. But talking about the post story, since I feel that's the most enjoyable part of the game for players like me who already played the originals, they did a really good job. I do like the sense of urgency the game has, or that at least the post story has, and I really wish that the entire game was built upon that. Like, it vaguely talks about what happened in the last game, but the whole thing is focused on trying to stop this meteor while life is still continuing on and stuff like that. So basically, you get that same vibe that you always get from these movies. Like, you have like an alien invasion coming to like destroy Earth, but only like the United States is something that can deal with it. It's kind of like that here. Hoenn only has the technology needed to stop this asteroid for the most part. But you're introduced to a new character. I don't remember her name. It starts with a Z. But she's awkward. Like, she has a backstory, but it's not a backstory that you care about because you kind of expect it. Um, she just kind of comes out of nowhere. She's beating all the people that you've already beat. And she kind of shares my personal views on a lot of different things. Like, for example, when they were talking about, we'll just use the technology we use to make teleporters, and we'll just teleport the asteroid somewhere else. And I was saying to myself, it's like, well, yeah, you can do that, but if there are other civilized worlds out there, then the only thing you're going to do is make it harder for them because their technology is not the same as yours, or not as great, or they don't even have technology. Then you just effectively kill an entire planet for the most part, but you save your own. And she had said that she's like, I kind of want to be able to preserve all worlds if it's at all possible. So her goal was to get more keystones so she can attempt to summon Rayquaza so he could stop the asteroid. So going into it, you get there. And let me say, the post game is full of dialogue. I mean, sometimes it's just too much. And she tells you the backstory of her people and why, all this other stuff. Stuff you really don't care about. And you finally get to the sky tower. It doesn't ever tell you when you need to go there until you need to go there. The game makes so many references of actually going to the sky tower, but you keep going there. You got this lady that tells you, well, you can't come in here unless you're deemed worthy or something like that. It was just super tedious. But when you get up to the tower, she summons Rayquaza. Rayquaza comes down. She tells it to Mega Evolve, but it doesn't. She doesn't know why. She thinks she messed something up and all this other stuff. But it turns out that meteorite that you were carrying around in your bag the entire game is what Rayquaza needs to Mega Evolve. So Rayquaza eats the meteorite because apparently he eats meteors now in order to gain the power to Mega Evolve. Something that's never been referenced at all. When he Mega Evolves, you put on your Team Aqua or Team Magma suit, and you go into space. And I must say, it was actually pretty cool seeing my Mega Pidgeot fight against Deoxys in space. I mean, how often does that happen? So those 6 Pokemon on my party were the only ones that ever actually see space. That's actually kind of cool. But yeah, Rayquaza smashes the meteorite. This meteor, it was incredibly small. It still would have done damage, but it wouldn't have been total extinction like they were saying that it would have. It wasn't that big. But Rayquaza smashes the meteor. Deoxys comes out and you fight Deoxys. Deoxys is level 80 and it does hit very hard because Deoxys is a special attack monster. I think has one of the highest special attacks in the game, as a matter of fact. Base stat of 150. It's insane. But you do that and the entire world praises you again for saving the day. Now, another gripe I do have with the game is that a lot of the cutscenes and scripted events just carry on for far too long. A lot of times you're just sitting there oh my goodness, just end. And I kind of felt the same way when I was going through the Elite Four for the first time. How they want to show off everything. The game will stop you for 10-15 seconds just to show you certain effects. It's yeah, it's cool that you can do that though, but don't hinder my play experience because this is taking way too long. I mean, this Elite Four run was very long just because of all of the cutscenes that played, all the scripted events that happened. And I know they're doing it just so they can show off the game, but at the same time, there's got to be a compromise somewhere. The ability to skip cutscenes would be nice. But that's pretty much that right there. Certain things just carry on for far too long and kind of interrupts my kind of enjoyment of said game. Another thing that I really did like at the end of the game, during the credits, they actually showed you like your team, like when you actually played through the game. Like I thought it was something that might have been scripted, that they'll just show certain events that happen in the game with Pokemon that you should have played through the game with. But no, they didn't. They didn't do that. It showed my early events in the game when I had my Torchic. Then it showed events where I traded over my shiny Vaporeon and my Zangoose, and it showed things that my Pidgey has done all the way up to Pidgeot. So that was actually kind of cool, seeing like my Mega Pidgeot squaring off with like Primal Kyogre. It was pretty neat. I did enjoy that. I like it when they pay extra attention to things like that in the game. Like like I never really knew that that's something that they was actually keeping tabs of, but the game keeps track of that and it shows you that in the beginning of the game, and it just feels even more special to me because I got to see my playthrough with these Pokemon that I've actually used. Like this is a really good game. I like it, and I'm pretty sure everybody else liked it, but I can't say anything good about it that hasn't already been said about any other Pokemon game. Like I never actually formally made a review of Pokemon X and Y, but Pokemon X and Y feels like Pokemon Red and Blue with better graphics to me. The graphics makes a good game better, but that's all it was. It was just Pokemon Red and Blue to me. This game right here is Pokemon Sapphire, just with Primal Evolutions, Mega Evolutions, and a little bit of a retelling of the game. That's it. But we actually do get um a battle resort here in the game. It's supposed to be like their take on the battle tower, and that's kind of a gripe that I do have here as well. Yep, I know, full of gripes. But this here, they don't have the battle tower in this game, and that's disappointing. The reason that's disappointing because that was the biggest selling feature of Pokemon Emerald. I bought the game so I could play in the battle tower, and since this game here is based on Pokemon Emerald, they too should also have the battle tower in this game. Now there's a reference to the battle tower in this game. It's kind of like a monument to it, like kind of like, oh, we're working on this now type deal, and they're going to add it later to the game. But that's my that's my gripe, is that the battle tower should have already been planned to be part of this game to begin with, not added to the game later, because all that does is create issues for me for the most part. I think it's called the Battle Frontier actually, but that all that stuff should have been added to the game. And people are saying, well, if they do add it to the game, it could just be added as DLC. And that's my problem, is that when you do DLC, you do DLC to add to the game's already existing experience. You don't add things to the game that should have already been with the game to begin with, because that's not how you correctly do DLC. We don't want it to be like a Capcom thing where the content's already in the game, you just have to pay to unlock it. And if you did watch my last video, I kind of briefly talked about Nintendo's problem when it comes to certain things. DLC is only a good option when the game is already complete. You shouldn't have to sell me something that should have been included in the game in the first place, and that's the way I feel it is. Now, if they do release the Battle Tower as DLC, then I am going to buy it, because that was the one enjoyable thing of Pokemon Emerald to me. You actually got all of these different game modes that you could play. My favorite being the one where you put all of your Pokemon in and you let them do whatever actions they want. So everything is random. You never know how it's going to be. So you have to build your team accordingly and hope that they do the right things at the right time. That was fun because that's never been done before. But it should have been included in the main game. Now the game does a lot of things right. I actually don't mind the battle hotel they have in here, the battle mason. I mean, it's pretty much a complete carbon copy of the one from X and Y. I mean, it is a carbon copy. I mean, there might be some graphical changes to the actual area, but for the most part, it's the exact same thing, just over and over again. But I don't think I can really find anything else in the game that actually needs to be talked about. Because for the most part, it functions as Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire, just with references to Pokemon Emerald, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think that's it for this review. So I mean, if I'm gonna give this a score, I would say a solid 3.5 out of 5. I mean, it's a average game. It has everything you already expect from Pokemon. The game doesn't really try to do anything new. I mean, the newest features that they did put into the game was the soar mode, and it's all aspiring at first, but after a while it just becomes a chore to even go into. That flying was the much better option to go over anyway. Maybe if they allowed you to use who you wanted in that mode. Like, I figured since Mega Pidgeot was like 7 feet 3 inches tall, which is almost twice the size as Pidgeot's normal, 4 feet 7 inches, that you might actually get to use it in that mode as well, but you don't. It's exclusively only for Mega Latios and Mega Latios. And on top of that, Mega Latios and Mega Latios pretty much share the exact same Pokemon model. So it just seems like an aspect of laziness. I haven't really gotten too in depth with the Pokemon contest. I plan on doing that as well. I might actually do a separate review for that once I get everything going. But I just wanted the main aspect of this game. Let me charge my 3DS real quick because it's flashing red over here. Alright. But for the most part, this review is complete. Like I said, with my score of 3.5 out of 5. I would recommend the game to anybody who doesn't have it. I mean, it's never a bad idea to re-get Pokemon games. But if they're going to just keep remaking Pokemon games with just whatever newer stuff that they add to it, then I really can't say much about it. Because if they do remake Gold, Silver, and Crystal, and they'll probably give Lugia a primal evolution, and they'll probably give Ho-Oh a primal evolution. Same thing with the other ones. Mewtwo got a Mega, but Mewtwo might get something else. Or something. I mean, it's just going to go like that. And they're going to keep that trend going, then it's going to be hard to actually give it a really good score, because the games don't try to do anything new. It's like the game plays it too safe on certain things. And when it comes to stuff like this, you have to not be afraid to do things with a little risk involved, I guess. Pokemon already has a very large fan following, and I doubt they can do anything to the series that will make people lose these fans. The only thing they can do is actually gain, and they should really experiment with trying things they've never done before. But that's all I got for you guys for this video. If you do like this video, please subscribe to my channel. There will always be more content like this in the future. Leave comments below. Tell me what you thought about the game. Things you liked about it, things you didn't like about it. I do want to hear these things. This is also good for Game Freak and Nintendo, because they get our feedback about these games, and they can go on and make it. And do make sure to click that like button, because I like getting likes. And if you don't like the video, just tell me what you didn't like about it before you dislike it. So at least that way I can actually learn what I did wrong, or things I could change in my next video, so I can make you like the next one. It's kind of like a give and take relationship here. You guys watch my videos, my long talks and rants and stuff like that, and I kind of want to make sure I give something back too. That I give content that you guys kind of want to that you would like to watch. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.